For a species to continue, there must be a method for reproduction. Reproduction is the system that allows living things to produce new individuals of the same kind.
When reproduction of a species doesn't occur, the species becomes extinct, which means it no longer exists on Earth. Plants and animals reproduce to continue their species. Reproduction for humans, like that for all mammals, is sexual.
That means there are separate male and female organs designed to produce the necessary sex cells for reproduction. In human beings, reproductive organs are called gonads.
All humans started out no larger than a dot, just barely visible to the unaided eye. This was the female gamete, or sex cell, called the ovum. It was fertilized by a male gamete, called a sperm.
Fertilization occurs when the sperm nucleus joins the ovum, or egg nucleus. 9 months later, a complete human may be born. During those 9 months, the fertilized egg has changed from a single cell to an individual with trillions of cells.
It has increased in size by 2 billion times. The one cell has evolved into a complex organism with specialized cells, tissues, and organs designed to carry out life's functions.
The male gonads are called testes. They are suspended in a sac below the abdomen. The sac is called the scrotum and is suspended outside the body where the temperature is slightly cooler.
The lower temperature is important to the production of healthy sperm, which are the male gametes or sex cells. The sperm are produced inside the testes in hundreds of tightly packed tubes called seminiferous tubules.
The sperm move into the epididymis and then into the vas deferens where they are stored. During ejaculation, muscular contractions cause the sperm to travel through the urethra, in the penis, and out of the body.
Before moving to the urethra, the sperm are mixed with a fluid produced by nearby glands. This mixture of sperm and fluid is called semen. In each drop of semen, there are approximately 5 million sperm cells.
There are 3 parts to each sperm cell. The head contains the nucleus, or control center of the cell. The middle section provides energy, and the tail moves the sperm along by swishing back and forth.
Testes also produce a hormone called testosterone. This hormone causes changes in the male body during puberty. These changes include a deepening of the voice, broader shoulders, and the growth of facial and body hair.
The female reproductive organs are all located within the body of female. The main organs of this system are the ovaries.
The 2 ovaries are located at about hip level. The ovaries are responsible for producing the ova, or eggs. Below the ovaries is the uterus, a pear-shaped muscular organ about the size of a fist.
This is where a fertilized egg will develop over the 9 months of gestation into a child. Connected to the uterus are 2 fallopian tubes. These tubes each lead to one of the ovaries.
The fallopian tubes are not attached to the ovaries, but are located in such a way that a newly matured and released egg can be easily moved into the tube by tiny cilia located at the end of the fallopian tubes.
The egg travels slowly through the fallopian tube and into the uterus. If the egg is fertilized, then it will embed itself in the lining of the uterus and begin developing over the next 9 months.
If it is not fertilized, it will eventually be eliminated from the body. The uterus narrows at the lower end into a small opening called the cervix. The cervix opens into a wider area called the vagina, or birth canal. At the end of the vagina is an opening to the outside.
A female is born with all the eggs she will ever have. These are undeveloped eggs and can number over 400,000.
During a female's life, only about 500 of these eggs will ever mature and travel to the uterus. Hormones produced by the ovaries initiate changes during puberty, which is the beginning of adolescence.
Adolescence is a period of change that begins in the early teens and goes until about age 20. During this time, a person's body changes from that of a child into that of an adult.
The hormone estrogen, produced and released by the ovaries, causes the following changes during this period: an enlargement of the breasts, the widening of the hips, the growth of body hair, and the maturing of egg cells in the ovaries.
Another important change during adolescence is the beginning of a monthly cycle to prepare the uterus to receive and nourish a possible fertilized egg. This monthly cycle is called the menstrual cycle.
Approximately every 28 days, an egg is released from one of the ovaries and begins to travel down the fallopian tube. The ovaries alternate the release of eggs.
1 month, the left ovary releases an egg, and the next month the right ovary takes its turn. The release of an egg from an ovary is referred to as ovulation.
During this time, the uterus has been undergoing changes. The walls of the uterus fill with blood and become thicker.
If the egg that travels through the fallopian tube becomes fertilized by a sperm cell, then the egg will implant itself in the lining of the uterus and begin the process of development which can lead to a new life.
If the egg isn't fertilized, it will break down and leave the body with the used blood and tissue that had collected in the uterine wall. This blood and tissue leave the body through the vagina over a 5-day period of time.
This is called menstruation. As menstruation takes place, a new egg is maturing in the other ovary to begin the whole cycle again.
If an egg and sperm cell unite, then menstruation won't take place. Instead, the fertilized egg embeds itself in the lining of the uterus wall, which has been prepared with extra blood.
The sperm are introduced to the female body during sexual intercourse. The male penis is inserted into the vagina of the female, and semen is ejaculated into the vagina.
Of the approximately 400 million sperm released into the vagina, only about a few thousand will manage to make their way to the fallopian tube, where the egg is moving towards the uterus. The sperm will surround the egg and try to penetrate it.
If a sperm is successful, the head and midsection of the sperm move into the egg. The tail falls off. When a sperm penetrates the egg's membrane, a change occurs that keeps all other sperm from entering.
The reason for this is only one sperm can unite with an egg. That's because each sex cell is contributing half the number of chromosomes to the fertilized egg, which is now called a zygote.
Human beings have 46 chromosomes inside every cell, except the sex cells. The sex cells each contain 23 chromosomes. Chromosomes are rod-shaped structures found in the nucleus of cells.
The chromosomes are responsible for passing on inherited traits or characteristics, such as hair color, eye color, and skin color. The chromosomes include detailed information that will become a complex organism.
All living things have chromosomes. The number of chromosomes has nothing to do with how sophisticated an organism is. For instance, all humans have 46 chromosomes.
A dog has 78 chromosomes, and corn has 20 chromosomes. The chromosomes carry thousands of genes, which determine the characteristics of the new individual.
The genes are specific locations on the chromosomes. The genes are arranged in pairs.
There are 100 trillion living cells in the human body, and every one of them, except for the red blood cells and the sex cells, have identical sets of chromosomes.
They have all formed as new cells of the body and are made during cell division called mitosis. After the egg cell has been fertilized by the sperm cell, contents of the nuclei combine, and the 23 chromosomes from the egg and the 23 chromosomes from the sperm combine.
The new cell has the correct number of chromosomes for a human, 46, and a new nucleus. Now new cells will develop from this cell. First, the chromosomes line up in the nucleus and split right down the middle.
Each chromosome has doubled by forming another chromosome just like it. Now they all gather near the center of the cell and then begin to pull apart, with one of the double chromosomes moving to one end of the cell and the other chromosome moving to the other side of the cell.
This means there is a complete set of chromosomes at each end of the cell. Now a membrane forms around each set of chromosomes and two new nuclei appear.
The cell begins to pinch in the center, and it divides, creating two identical cells, each with exactly the same chromosomes.
All the cells of the body divide by mitosis, except for the sex cells. The sperm and egg cells form during a different process called meiosis.
Meiosis starts out the same as mitosis, with the duplication of each member of the 46 chromosomes. Matching pairs of chromosomes line up and undergo an exchange of genes that is unique and can never be exactly duplicated.
In this way, the genes are randomly mixed. Then the chromosomes line up in the center of the cell, and half the chromosomes are pulled to one end of the cell, and the other half moves to the other end of the cell.
The cell divides down the middle, and two new cells are formed. Now the chromosomes line up in the middle of each cell again, and then spread apart, with half of the chromosomes moving to one side and the other half moving to the other end.
The cells divide again, with a result of 4 cells with 23 chromosomes in each. This way, the sex cells each contain half the number of human chromosomes, so that when an egg is fertilized by a sperm, each sex cell is providing one half the chromosomes, for a total of 46.
So, an individual receives 23 chromosomes from their mother and 23 chromosomes from the father, to equal the 46 chromosomes that make a human. The chromosomes contain genes, which are found on a long coiled molecule called DNA.
Each chromosome contains about 100,000 genes, which are responsible for the individual traits and characteristics of a person. Things like hair and eye color, height, and athletic ability are all determined by the matchup of genes found on the chromosomes.
Gregor Mendel, an Austrian monk who lived from 1822 to 1884, made many investigations into the way traits are passed on from one generation to another. He studied pea plants over an 8-year period.
One of his most famous investigations had to do with short and tall pea plants. He cross-pollinated a tall pea plant with a short pea plant.
He'll identify the gene for tall with a T and the gene for short with an S. By pollinating a tall plant and a short plant, you might expect some to be medium-sized, but Mendel was surprised to find that all the new plants were tall.
Mendel then cross-pollinated these new plants and found that 3/4 were tall and 1 out of 4 were short. This is how he explained it.
The first plants, which were pure tall or pure short plants, produced all tall plants because the tall gene is dominant over the short gene, which is recessive. If a tall gene is present, the resulting plant must be tall.
However, in the next generation, there is a 1 in 4 chance that a plant would receive a short gene from both parent plants. With an SS combination, the plant would be short.
Mendel then realized genes pair up, and the resulting trait or characteristic is determined by which gene is dominant or recessive. Mendel picked these terms to describe genes because of their Latin derivation.
Dominant comes from a Latin word that means master, And recessive comes from a Latin word meaning to draw back. Certain traits are dominant traits, which means they will show up in offspring.
Some traits are recessive and will only appear in offspring if the gene of that trait is provided by both the father and mother. An example of this is the gene for red hair. It is a recessive gene.
The only way that red hair will show up in a child is if the gene for red hair is present in the sperm and egg cells. In any other situation, the other hair color trait will show up because all the other hair color traits are dominant over the red hair trait.
Today we have taken a look at the reproductive systems of human beings. These systems provide a means for ensuring the species continues.
There is a tremendous responsibility that goes along with being a parent. Unlike many of the animals on our planet, human babies are totally dependent on their parents.
They are completely helpless and rely on constant care and attention. So, before two people decide to be parents, they had better be prepared for a lot of hard work and patience.
Video quiz. Students may write the answers to the following questions on a separate piece of paper or on the duplicating master titled Video Quiz. Number 1. The name of the female sex cell is A. Sperm, B. Ovum, C. Meiosis, D. Mitosis.
Two, the beginning of adolescence is called A. Mitosis, B. Meiosis, C. Puberty, D. Menstruation.
Three. The human being has how many chromosomes? A. 23, B. 52, C. 25, D. 46.
Four, the monthly cycle during which the womb of a female prepares itself for the possibility of pregnancy is called A. Menstruation, B. Puberty, C. Meiosis, D. Mitosis.
Five. The dividing of cells into two daughter cells is called A. Menstruation, B. Puberty, C. Meiosis, D. Mitosis.
Six, the forming of sex cells which contain 23 chromosomes is called A. Menstruation, B. Puberty, C. Meiosis, D. Mitosis.